and welcome to the first inaugural edition of Plated Stories. It's a new avatar of Food Talk by Sourish Bhattacharyya. And I think it's going to be a more interesting avatar than the past. And guess who do we have as the opening conversationalist? We have got Namrata Kohli, our home chef, who makes some fabulous cakes and muffins and brownies. And we have got a professional chef, Sahil Mehta, who is a graduate of Notre Paris, which makes him, it's called the Harvard of Patisserie, and so it makes him very special. And he has been in India now for about more than 10 years, I think.
17 years.
17 years, yes. And he has been consulting with a lot of, top brands. He was associated with L'Opera and Artful Baker and the Bread and More. In fact, we first met when you were at Bread and More, a long time back. Yeah? And of course, we have the one and only Vishal Sinha, who is the reason why we are all here. We are all here because of We the Chefs, and he's the founder, CEO of We the Chefs. Sahil, I'll open with you.
Right.
We were talking about the new trends, the trends that are defining the market for cakes and pastries today. What is known as the bakery and confectionery market. What are the big trends? There was a time when pineapple pastry and black forest used to be the ultimate. And we used to have something called coconut macaroons and Wengers. My favorite. So what has changed since then?
When I came back in 2008, end of 2008 and beginning of 2009, the trend was very different, like you're saying. I mean, more of truffle pastry, pineapple pastry, black forest. These were the only flavors that you would kind of see in a bakery or a patisserie. Suddenly, once, when L'Opera came in, trends started changing, and a new concept of luxury bakeries came in, and you saw a spark of bakeries in every neighborhood, market. Even the 5-stars started upgrading. So the new trend, I would say, is more getting into more of luxury. So the trend has definitely changed from then.
So luxury would also mean that you're moving in terms of ingredients used.
100%. So the ingredients have definitely got better, and a lot of people are now, as a consumer, a lot of people are more aware of what they're eating and consuming, because there's so much exposure, there's so much travel involved. Versus earlier on, people weren't traveling as much. There's a funny story that my driver one day asked me that, sir, अगर मेरे को अपनी family को Thailand ले जाना हो, तो कितना खर्चा आता है? So even at that level, people want to kind of travel and understand and go overseas. When they travel and they come back, they want the same product over here as well. So yeah.
Fantastic. Namrata, that brings me, to a very important question, which is, they're talking about luxury. Now as a home chef, are you able to deliver that kind of luxury to this evolving market? So what has changed for you in your career as a home chef? And you've been a home chef now for over 10 years.
I have.
Yeah.
It's nearly a decade now.
Yeah.
And palates have definitely evolved. Like Sahil said, that customers are very demanding now in terms of, they're very exacting, I think. And also this new trend that I'm seeing is focus on healthy desserts. So I have customers coming up with wanting very unique profiles. They want gluten-free desserts. They want you to experiment with making desserts without sugar, for example. So, and they're okay for you to go back. As a home chef, I have the flexibility of going back into my kitchen and experimenting until I get it right. So it was new to me, this whole thing, that when I had customers, especially old customers, who you have brand loyalty built over a period of time, so you can call me like a family baker for some families, that anytime they have an event in their house, they want me to bake. But someone recently told me that my mother-in-law is here and she's diabetic. It's her birthday. She's going to be with me. So make me a cake and make it gluten-free. Now, that needs me to go back and wear my thinking hat. To come back to your point, I think what has changed for me is the fact that with We the Chefs and the other customers that I have, pushing new boundaries of trying new things, these fusion flavors that have come in.
Yeah,
which have
that's
taken
a
on
very big thing,
way,
yeah,
right? You know, for example, a filter coffee walnut based dessert. Now, filter coffee is a very uniquely South Indian flavor. To combine it with walnuts in the form of, say, muffins or a little tea cake. This is just an example, right? People like the idea of new exotic flavors. For me, as a home chef, because I don't have access to bulk ingredients, I buy them in smaller quantities. And therefore, um, for my clients as well, there is a personalization that happens, a high degree of personalization. Someone wants it eggless, someone wants it with certain nuts. That has been new.
Are there clients who say, no, I only want walnut chocolate, or
Well,
or flour should be of the highest quality?
Surprisingly for us, I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but
no, please.
there are clients who, I mean, because my wife handles our brand, we have our brand of our own as well. So there are clients who call us and say that, okay, send us a picture that you're using Valrhona.
Yes.
I mean, we want to see if you're really using Valrhona. so I mean, that's how evolved and grown the client has become now. So,
And demanding.
demanding, definitely. I mean, there's a client of ours who's apparently one of the biggest exporters in the country, and he calls every 2 months or 3 months, and he wants a 90% chocolate made only with Remy Martin.
Oh, wow.
So,
Wow.
And he pays extra for the bottle. Or he'll send the bottle to us, and he says that, just add as much cognac as you can.
Wow. That must have been a heady experience. And so, Vishal, which brings me to the question, I mean, you, as we the chefs, you're catering to an array of clients, from individuals holding a birthday party to corporates doing an event for 600 people. So, when you're dealing with such a variety of clients, and everyone has a dessert platter, and you also do grazing tables with a dessert section. Now, catering to this sort of variety, what has been your experience? I mean, what are the demands, some odd demands or interesting demands that have come up for you?
So going back to what Sahil and Namrata said, what you see now is a lot more evolved actually. And because I was in the travel trade, I probably go 25 years ago, when people used to do these group tours, going to 10 different cities in 10 days. That has completely changed now. You don't hear of group tours. People go and stay at a particular destination for 10 to 12 days to get into the culture, to understand the cuisine. So what you're looking at now are people who know the actual taste. And I'll probably share a personal experience. The first time I flew to Europe, it was way back in 98. I did not know the difference between a cappuccino and an espresso. Right? I thought the espresso was the Shadiwala espresso which we were served at that point of time. Right? So this is learning. Now you have 25 different types of coffee, and you're amazed at people wanting a particular kind of coffee. So what we see a change is the fact that people come with a attitude. They know what they're looking for. And not that you would try to fool them, but you would not be able to fool a customer because he exactly knows what he's doing.
So, say someone comes to you for a birthday party, which happens very often in the WTC center in Gurgaon. Do they come with very specific requests like what Sahil just said, or okay?
A lot of them come in with very specific requests in terms of finding where are you sourcing the stuff from, who is the chef, what are the ingredients to be used, are they using this? Especially when it comes to the bakery stuff, right? They would definitely need to learn a lot more in terms of what is being used, how will they do it. They would want to speak on the chef. So people have become a lot more demanding and a lot more aware of what they're looking for.
Right. Today, let's talk about desserts only. How do you cope with these 70 different sorts of expectations? When Namrata and I think a couple of other dessert makers were the favorites and who were much in demand. So how do you cope with these different sets of expectations?
See, we push Namrata to try out things. So we have a list of things. We say, Namrata, the season is coming. What are the things that we can do differently?
Right.
How can we do the future stuff? What are the things which we are doing? So most of our chefs are equally experimental. They are willing to try out new things.
Right.
So thankfully, we have a team. We have around close to 350 chefs. Out of that, probably there are 25 to 30 bakers. And they're quite experimental in terms of what they would want to do and how they would want to look at things and change things.
Again, coming back to fusion, in fact, Sahil, I'll start with you. There was a time when Vineet Bhatia, sort of zapped us all with his chocolate samosa,
Right.
Then Manish Mehrotra came up with his Doda Barfi treacle tart,
Right.
Now every chef does something with rasmalai, gulab jamun, something or the other, patisa,
Right.
and this fusion has become very big.
Right.
What do you think about this trend, and how have you done something in this? Or are you still a classical French baker?
So at my heart, I remain a classical French baker. However, going back to 2015, I'd met Zoravar, and he had this.
Zoravar Kalra was the founder and managing
Yes.
director of massive restaurants.
And Zoravar spoke to me about this brand where he wanted to take desserts and do fusion stuff and put Indian desserts on the global platform. And back then probably it didn't click for me. And then later on I met another friend who has a very well-known Mithai brand now, who wanted to get into the fusion space but then decided later not to. I wasn't very open to the whole idea of this whole fusion thing, but then, I was contacted by a very, very big Indian Mithai brand to consult for them. And that opened my eyes, and we created a fusion brand. And now I have a brand of my own as well called Le Goût d'Inde, which means the flavors of India. So what we do is we take Indian bases and try to flavor them with, play around with a lot of French flavors, Italian flavors. So I feel there's a huge market, and I feel in terms of Mithai, definitely, there's so many Indian restaurants who've got, Indian chefs who've got Michelins. But in terms of Mithai, I still feel there's nobody who's been able to kind of crack that and put Mithai on that platform. Hopefully soon, if I can do it, well and good. If not, then maybe somebody else will be able to do it.
Yeah, because I think there is a.
There's a big
I remember a
demand.
long time back I had, gulab jamun cheesecake.
Right.
Now this hotel had put it on the staff canteen. I think there's a lot of spare gulab jamuns from a banquet that was left over. So they said, "Chalo cheesecake mein laga do." So this is how innovations are often made. But I thought it was a great idea. Of course, I didn't like the cheesecake I had,
Right.
but I'm sure you guys must have refined the science and the engineering that goes
Yes,
behind
we did.
it.
So when I was consulting for them, I was paid to learn how to make mithai and how Indian mithai works, and then pair them with international flavors. But coming back to what you asked me, I feel there's a huge market for Indian desserts as well, because some of them are very healthy as well. Most of them are made in ghee, and across the world, ghee is now appreciated. And I feel that if done correctly, like we say in India, khane mein meethe ke baad kya hai? Right? So it could become, mithais could and fusion desserts could become big.
Right.
If done the right way.
Yes, so, Namrata, do you have any fusion dessert or mithai dessert story to share?
I think last year during Diwali, we the chef, really Vishal said we have to do something, and I went back to the table. We used to do pies at that time, a traditional dark chocolate pie, but then we decided to experiment with white chocolate and bring in some gulab jamun. And I think at one point Vishal was having a tie-up with this company. They were providing, what was the gluten-free grains, remember? Some form of millet,
Right.
And so I had never worked with that millet. Honestly, I can't even remember the name, but I went back and try to make it like a pudding,
Right.
with chia seeds in it and flavor it with some saffron.
Right.
So, there have been experiments and some have worked brilliantly. And the white chocolate gulab jamun pie kind of really took off.
Wow, okay.
We did a mousse as well.
So I was having a conversation with Veer Sangvi a few years back, where he said that, why can't anybody create a gulab jamun, in a very different way? So I just threw it off, and I said that, we were talking on messages, and I told Veer, I said, Veer, how about flambing the gulab jamun with a little bit of cognac, adding maybe some to the chashni, bring it up with a nice mascarpone or crème chantilly, and
Brilliant.
doing it at the table for the client.
Did it work?
In fact, I didn't know it was your idea, because he was selling it to all of us.
But it was just
But of course, the version I had was very simple.
Right.
It was gulab jamun with a dash of contro
Right.
on top. Simple.
Contro works very well as well.
Contro and gulab jamun, but it is a fantastic combination.
Or even a Romania, for example.
Yeah,
People do very well.
you're right.
Is it on your menu?
Not as of now, but hopefully if we have a cafe, maybe.
Jalebi and contro work very well.
So my dream is to open a nice fusion Mithai place in France. So,
How amazing is that?
Yeah, interestingly, because if you see today, you talked about filter coffee, Araku, the Indian brand, their Paris cafes are doing fantastically well,
Yes.
And that only. So, Vishal, that brings me to an important thing, development, which everyone has been noticing, and that is about how, whereas the Indian palate is going international, but it's also there's a hankering for Desi stuff, And I think we the chefs always tries to promote the story behind every dish. We're trying to promote, home chefs and the heirloom recipes they bring with them. In the arena of desserts, what are the experimentation or what experiments are you doing with the home chefs?
I think more in terms of what we're looking at, Sourish, is more in terms of the fusion stuff, right? We're talking about the gulab jamun, so the Desi had to it was doing with the old one crown in terms of doing the gulab jamun, which has suddenly become very popular.
Right.
They tried with a whiskey pan and it did not work. It was a complete disaster. Right. So there are things which we keep on trying and doing. At times fusion also leads to a lot of confusion. So it is equally important to be really clear in terms of what is it that we are trying to develop.
Right.
And that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Right? You can spend a lot of time with these home chefs trying to do it, trying to create a new menu, but probably it's the home chef and you love it, no one else does.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's more in terms of probably being absolutely clear in terms of what you want to be able to create those structures.
maybe the next time you try to do a gulab jamun with whiskey, you should try it with PT. Nice smoky PT whiskey. Add to the flavor.
Or Lafroy or something like
Lafroy
that.
or Lagavulin.
Interesting. That's the second big which we do. It's something where I personally feel at times it's also difficult for the home chefs to sort of be able to understand what are the flavors which will go along well to be able to produce something which is good enough or scalable.
So that brings me to question for Namrata. As a home chef, how do you keep upgrading your knowledge, especially in an area like baking and confectionery, where this science seems to be just going faster than anything else.
True.
So how do you handle it?
To be honest, I mean, when I started 10 years back, I started only doing cakes, right? I had done a basic course when I was based outside of India.
Yeah.
And I started with that.
And for the benefit of the viewers, you were in Singapore.
Yes.
And you were an HR.
Yes.
You're full time into HR.
I was.
So from HR you went to
I made
pastry
a shift
management,
from corporate to, yes,
corporate to cakes.
corporate to cakes, if you can call it that. So I think my passion for cakes happened when I decided to quit the corporate scene and said, okay, I want to pursue something that I love. But coming to it, for example, I'm just saying, you may have thousands of graduates from a great college or a school, right? How many of them go on to take it to a next level or do something with that? I think my personal experience is that just doing a basic course on cakes is not enough to kind of, you have to evolve. To answer your question, how do I continue to evolve? So I sign up for a lot of workshops. Sometimes I go out of India to learn, decorating techniques. Last year I was in Malaysia to do a wedding cake course. I constantly upgrade. I sign up for courses. I go outside. I learn. I come back. And more than anything else, you have to come back and experiment, right? Some are epic failures. I may be trying to introduce a new fruit puree to add moisture to my cakes instead of sugar. I may get it wrong. I will go back to the table. So to answer your question, a lot of it is something that you learn, but you have to come back and adapt.
Yes,
I think that has worked for me.
The weather conditions here, the
So many
moisture
things, right?
here,
And Sahil will be
The
able
weather,
to.
the water, I mean, everything's very
Everything.
very different. Yeah.
So I had to rework all my recipes and according to the Indian palate initially. Now that we've been discussing, people are more aware, so we go back to the original ones, but we had to tweak recipes.
Right. And in fact, like also there are some ingredients which become like very popular at a particular point of time, like pistachios.
Yes.
They've suddenly become very popular.
The kunafa rage.
Kunafa rage. People are making now desserts with kunafa. Sort of, it's amazing. What's happening. So I guess that does happen. Sahil, is there a particular chef, international chef, whom you follow, whom you feel? People say who are our viewers should follow to learn more.
I used to really look up to, I still do, Pierre Hermé, who's a senior from my college. However, off late, in the last probably 8 years, I've been following and take a lot of inspiration from the chef at the Ritz in Paris called François Perret, who's, I think, according to me, one of the best chefs in pastry around the globe. He's been awarded as one of the best pastry chefs in the world several times. I feel he's extremely gifted, and I take a lot of inspiration from him. So whenever I travel to do my courses and upgrade myself, like Namrata said, I make it a point to go to his store. He's opened up a beautiful pastry shop right at the backyard of the Ritz, called the Comptoir of the Ritz. And I pick up a few desserts from there, try to eat them, try to understand the flavors, and kind of come back and replicate. A lot of inspiration comes in from it.
Yeah, I remember when I met Pierre Hermé when he was in Delhi, and I had good fortune of spending some time with him. When he came, he wasn't in exactly the best of moods.
Right.
So I had the fortunate or unfortunate task of livening him up. And somehow he took a great fancy for me, and he treated me to enough, of his macaroons. He had got a lot of macaroons from Paris, And once I learned about the price of each macaroon, I had like a double dose, So I was happier than him, And we had a fantastic conversation. And then he was talking about the new flavor profiles he was in. Like he was talking about olive oil, for instance, as a flavor profile. He was talking about jasmine,
Yes.
He was just struck by the aroma for jasmine, And the other day I met a French chef in Delhi, and he was talking about how he's doing rose and lychee,
So
Isfahan, sort of the rose and lychee, the great, So these are the things which are now being talked about, and there's a lot of excitement about the
fusion of flavors.
Exactly, Yeah. So what do you think? In fact, I'll ask Namrata. I'll ask you this question first. What do you think is the current rage? We talked about kunafa, we talked about the lychee, the Isfahan, What is the current rage?
In my experience, limited experience as a home baker and the clients that I have, I can go with, I can't generalize it, but I can say from my personal experience, there is an increased focus on nut-based desserts, which has always been there, but things like pista and rose coming together, or I've had people ask me for floral infusions like elderflower. There was someone who asked me, if I can make a cake with elderflower, and I had to go back. So these are things that are coming up for me.
So, Vishal, we're sort of coming to our end of the segment of the conversation where I'll be asking the question, you'll be the next, But, as you sort of take over, I would like you to, because now you've been about 2 years in the business of dealing with people, the real consumers, the end consumers. What do you think are the learnings for bakers and people in the confectionery business?
The most important thing to me is quality and consistency. And this is something which I think is true for all businesses. Even when I was with an airline or the travel trade, you have to be able to provide quality and be consistent with what you're giving. Right? One of the challenges, right, we face with some of the home chefs is the level of consistency. Right? And that is something which is extremely important for any customer. Right? The taste, everything is fine, but if you're consistent and your quality is good, you will always do well.
Right.
I feel that being consistent is very, very important. I've reached so far only because I'm so particular about what I'm using. And day before, I was with somebody and they said, there's a lot of noise in the market that people should not work with Sahil because he only follows one path and he's very stringent about the way he works. And I said, yeah, because I've been consistent and that's the way I like to work. If you're consistent, baking is, like you said, baking is all about science.
When it comes to baking, it's all about precision. Everything needs to be weighed and then polished. You can't work it out.
Great ending for this segment of our podcast. I hope, the viewers, you have enjoyed it and learned something. Vishal, now it's your turn to add a dose of your wisdom to our discussion.
Well, I would not add any dose of wisdom because I think I'm speaking to three very wise people. I'd probably ask a few questions from Namrata and Sahil, or in terms of what would be the top tips, Sahil, for the home chefs? We've spoken about quality and consistency here. But what do you think are some of the other elements which they need to keep in mind if they want to scale up their business?
Number one being quality and consistency for sure. Also, I feel to understand, like Namrata rightly said, that she's been in this game for 10 years and she's become like a family. To build that relationship with clients is very, very important as well. So,
and another coming back in terms of being able to build up the bits of relationship with the clients, what do you think are the key elements which you need to keep in mind?
I think the first thing is you have to be upfront and honest. I've learned this the hard way, where to please someone or to get a new client on board, if you go out of your way to say, yes, I can do it, without actually knowing that you can do it, is a big faux pas. I think that you learn the hard way saying that, no, I can't, or I'll get back to you. That is a key learning for me over the years. So when I'm unsure about something, I tell the client saying, give me time, I'll get back. And we've had this conversation, right, with your team several times when they've called me and said, Chef, can you do this? And I say, let me get back to you. It's not a straight away yes or a no, because if I know I can do it, I will say yes. Like Sahil said, consistency is key. I can't promise you something unless I've done it. I think that works. And the trust that has built with the customers that I have on a regular basis, by now they know. If Namrata says yes to a certain thing, they know what they're going to get. A brownie is going to be like a brownie. Or, you want certain kind of flavors of pies or muffins, you know what you're going to get. So that consistency has to be there. So, and that trust builds with time, right? I know that a particular client's son likes his cake in a certain way. This is the amount of chocolate that he likes. The daughter does not like chocolate. So I will suggest new flavors of cakes for that birthday, which is different. So that trust that builds with time, that understanding of a client, knowing that, okay, they're having a dinner in their house, they want a particular kind of dessert. And so you go in depth into the client saying, what kind of food are you serving? Not just blindly suggesting a cake, but what is the other food? And they'll say, oh, it's non-Indian food. So then you suggest different desserts. That trust and relationship that builds, for me, that has been a key understanding. And even with WTC, it's the same. I think over a period of time, we've understood each other. The team recognizes things that I will do well, or things I will back out of because I'm not comfortable with. That being upfront, I think, is the biggest learning.
Sahil, one more question, and again, from the home chef's point of view as well. There's a lot of customization which is done, right? When you start scaling up, how do you sort of have a balance between customization and setting up certain elements and say, this is what I do?
It's a tough call to kind of, like she said, again, it all comes back to building a relationship with people. And, let's say, for example, somebody wants a very different flavor, which, like you said, fusion adds to confusion. Like she rightly said, that you need to know where to say no, or go back and say that, okay, let me get back to you.
Sure. One last question, Sahil, is the bits in terms of when you experimented with these things, how long should you try and sell that? Is there a time frame which you have to say, okay, fine, I'll give it my best shot?
I'd love to hear the answer to that one.
Or just drop it straight away.
You have to believe in yourself. You have to understand what the market wants. And I've always believed in something, Vishal, wherein know what the market wants tomorrow than what the market wants today. I've always believed in that. And you have to be very, very sure of what you're doing and if you're doing it right.
Anyway, thank you so much. It was really
Thank you. Pleasure.
lovely talking to you guys, and I'm sure we'll learn and we'll have fun as the podcast progresses.
Wishing you all the luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.